Hello, I'm Noel Cheer. It has been said that the strength of Western culture lies in its ability to focus its attention and to specialise its expertise. That has led to accusations that it is soulless, that we live in an air-conditioned nightmare and a consumerist Valhalla driven by head stuff and lacking the heart stuff with which to control the lust and anger of our shadow side. My guest this evening is from India, and he is one of that country's most prestigious scientists. He is a fellow of the Indian Academy of Science and has attracted many other honours. He has published extensively in physics at both the learned and at the popular level. He has also applied his enormous learning in his country's religious traditions and is a devotee of the Guru Sathya Sai Baba. His study of the Hindu sacred scripture, the Ramayana, suggests to him where our understanding of the structure of reality is taking us. He thinks that ancient perceptions can inform leading-edge Western quantum physics. Tonight I'm honoured to be in conversation with Professor Ganan Venkataraman. Welcome to Tringle Television.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
You are on a brief tour of New Zealand.
Yes, sir.
And you are addressing devotees of the Guru Sathya Sai Baba, who died last year. So that place is of interest. But you too are a devotee of Sathya Sai Baba.
Yes, sir.
What does that entail for you? What does that do for your life?
Well, very briefly, it's like this. I was preoccupied with science from the time I got out of college to the time I retired. And as they say, science is a jealous mistress. But when I was about to retire, I decided what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Most scientists try to extend it by staying in science, which is a foolish thing because you're competing with young people. I said I'm going to do something positive with my life, minimally serve. And I found in Sathya Sai Baba a master who showed the way of combining knowledge with compassion and being of use to society. So that's why I gravitated towards it.
So we should understand that Sai Baba is regarded by his devotees as an avatar, a manifestation of the gods Shiva and Shakti. Is that
well, this business of avatar is a little bit complicated. Basically what it means is God in the abstract manifests into something that is more material and tangible, but embedded in which is consciousness. So if you ask a technical man, and this includes even Western people, any manifestation of God in the material plane is an avatar, but they are graded, you know.
All right,
so consciousness sleeps in a stone, stirs in a plant, flower opens in an animal, and flowers in a human being. This is how George Waldorf Howard describes it. And the human being is also an avatar.
So we're all avatars.
Yes, except
that
we are covered with a bit of ignorance.
Yes.
And the manifestation of God with all his perfection is what is called a Purna avatar or complete avatar.
Yes.
So he's the best amongst us to guide us.
And so Sai Baba is that fully realized avatar.
That's right.
But he is one of three possible incarnations, because he claimed early in his life that he was the reincarnation of the Sai Baba of Shirdi, who had died just a few years before he was born. So he made that claim as a teenager.
Yes, you see, in the Bhagavad Gita, which was taught by Krishna to Arjuna, he explains when and why God comes bearing a human form with all his powers.
Yes.
It is when humanity is in trouble and is looking for some, what you call, higher level guidance.
Yes.
And today, when humanity is in trouble, we need guidance. So God in his wisdom chose to appear not as one incarnation, but as trilogy, where Shirdi Baba was to set the pace.
Yes.
Sathya Sai Baba was to accelerate it and launch the mission. And the third incarnation, which is in the future, would sort of do the wrap-up. And that's how it was, he has explained it.
In Western terms, Sathya Sai Baba died last year. You have other ways of saying that he is temporarily gone or something like that. You perhaps don't use the Western terminology there. I mean, Westerners would say he died, but devotees would use another turn of phrase, I think.
You see, it all depends at what level you speak.
Yes.
At the physical level, the body died. Satya Sai Baba does not die. Nobody dies because we are consciousness. It is eternal and embedded in us. So that consciousness which is embedded becomes separated from the inert aspect to which it gives life. And it is still there. If I may give a small example, if you see the sky, it seems clear and blue.
Yes.
But there's water vapor there which we cannot see.
Right.
Suddenly out of there, you see a cloud. And what is that cloud? Nothing but the condensation,
the condensation
of that water vapor.
Okay.
And you see a cloud here, you see a cloud. They are all from the same water vapor. This cloud changes shapes, drifts and disappears.
Okay.
So the appearance of material objects, especially living objects, is a manifestation of the lower plane of consciousness.
Okay.
And Satya Sai Baba was perfection manifested, plays the role, withdraws, and he will come back when he is needed again.
So how does a devotee like yourself, or all the other, there's somewhere between 6 million and 100 million devotees, we understand from different sources worldwide. How does a devotee relate to the object of his devotion?
That depends on the level of the awakening, spiritual awakening of the devotee. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, in whatever way people approach me, in the same way I relate to them, because that's the only way they can understand me.
Yes.
If they see me as a friend, I relate to them as a friend. If they see me as father, I relate to them as father.
Yeah.
So it is like a child and father. You know, when the child is young, it calls his father daddy.
Yes.
And then when he's a young man, he says, hi dad, and doesn't even ignores him. And so on. So this is, if you're a spiritual person, your relationship evolves.
Yeah.
If you are a person who is prone to be distracted, then it goes up and down.
There is much we could say about Satya Sai Baba, but one of the good things I think we should look at is his respect for all religious faiths and his insistence on many good social works. That much of the devotees' donations that flowed out again as works of creating piped water to villages and of that kind of thing. You had, in your early days as a scientist, I read, a romantic view of the ability of science and technology to relieve poverty, but you realized that it wasn't fully able to do that, you needed to have some sort of heart, some sort of inclination to do that, and I think you got that from Sai Baba.
Sai Baba crystallized it, but it was sort of triggered by a Western scientist. If you allow me a minute, I will go back to the first part of your statement. You see, I was born in India. I saw poverty everywhere, and that disturbed me. It was a part of me. I went into science, and our first Prime Minister, Mr. Nehru, was so much attracted to the Soviet model. He thought science and technology would solve the problems.
Right.
So I bought that line.
Yes.
But it didn't really solve the problem.
In fact, that was a Marxist romanticism itself.
Exactly.
Wasn't it?
It was a Huxley kind of left wing in England. He was sort of a product of England.
Yeah.
So he had this romantic vision of Soviet communism.
Yeah.
So we had the 5-year plans and all that. It didn't work. Right. And I realized something was missing. And what was missing, I realized from a scientist named Weizsäcker,
Yes.
Austrian Jew who ran away to America, worked on the atom bomb project, was devastated by the evil it represented, became a distinguished professor of physics in MIT. He was a very cultured man, and he said, knowledge and compassion are two pillars of human society.
Okay.
Compassion without knowledge is ineffective. A
Right.
villager can be very compassionate, but he can't do very little to humanity. Knowledge without compassion is inhuman.
Okay.
So he left it at that.
Yeah.
What I saw in Sai Baba was he used worldly knowledge, didn't trash it, and he used compassion, brought them together.
Bringing them together.
And for me, my what you call inner feelings and outer experience got together, and I said I can use my experience to some good. That's what I.
And you've been an honorary professor at the Sai Baba Institute for Higher Learning in South India for the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, from the day I retired, practically.
Yeah. You're a PhD in physics, so you have been you've been strongly related to the Department of Atomic Energy in India. So you spent much of your professional life deep into complex physics.
That's right. First 18 years I was immersed in actual physical research done around nuclear reactors. I worked with nuclear reactors for nearly 18 years.
Yes.
Then I went into another place, which was part of the Department of Atomic Energy, where I had to set up groups, lead and guide young scientists.
Yes.
But again, it was connected with reactors in an indirect manner.
Yeah.
We were building a fast reactor.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of technological problems. We
Yeah.
had to address the physics aspect of the technology problems. It was applied nuclear technology as opposed to basic research.
Yes.
Then I had to wear a managerial hat and so on.
So, during your career as a physicist with the Department of Atomic, when did your devotion to Sathya Sai Baba start?
That's a good question. You see, when I was deep into science, religion, God and all sort of faded into the periphery. I mean, when you even forget the family, you can't blame one person for forgetting God. That's how preoccupied you become. But it so happened that a couple of things happened in my life, including a deep personal tragedy in the year 1988.
Oh, yes.
And very plainly, my wife and I lost our only son, who was born late, and he died at the age of 18, very suddenly. And that sort of shook me quite a bit, naturally, and made me reflect on many things. Which
So this was towards the end of your career?
That's right.
Yes, nearing retirement age?
That's absolutely right,
yes.
4 years before my retirement.
Right.
And then I began to get involved and take interest in things beyond those that preoccupy you from day to day.
Okay.
What is the higher purpose of life? And you know, you drift to Gandhi and then... but luckily for me, when I was very young, I was given a book by Tolstoy, which I had read some 100 or 200 times.
Yeah.
And that made a deep impression on me. Just as Tolstoy made an impression on Gandhi.
Yes.
So, and I had sort of lived for at least 15 years of my life when Gandhi was alive. No, more than that.
Yeah.
Gandhi died in 48, so that means 16 years.
Yeah. Now, just
those things made an impression.
Yeah. So you were, for most of your professional life, deeply embedded in Western science, or in science as construed by the West. Western scientists are mostly systematically non-religious, that they go to great efforts to exclude religious concerns from science. So the science that you were doing was anti-religious, if you will.
Well, I don't think many people are aware that this so-called anti-religious attitude of science is a product of latter half of 20th century. If you go back to Newton, he was a deeply religious man. And he, in fact, even prepared for a career in church, which he abandoned mercifully for scientists. And it was only in the 20th century, after Darwin's theory of evolution, that many people began to question. But let me mention the name of two scientists, if you allow me to. One is Charles Townes of Columbia University. Professor Charles Townes. He won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of the laser principle and building the first maser.
Right.
He says science explains the how of the universe. Religion explains the why of the universe.
Okay.
That is one thing. The second thing is there's a man called Professor Francis Collins. He headed the Human Genome Project. He started as an atheist when he started the project.
Right.
At the end of the project, he became a fully devoted Christian.
Right, but from what he said. No, many learned men in India are also steeped in Hindu scriptures. Were you aware of and deeply involved with the reading of, say, the Bhagavad Gita or the Ramayana prior to your movement towards Sai Baba?
Very good question. I bought Bhagavad Gita in 1956, never read it.
All right, yes.
I tried reading one or two of these philosophical books, couldn't get past the first paragraph. But when I came to Sai Baba, I heard his discourses, he made things so simple. I began to take interest.
So under his tutelage, you came up to speed, as it were, on the Hindu scriptures, because you've written a very good commentary on the Gita, which you
see, that is because I looked at it from a non-traditional point of view. My scientific background allowed me to look at things beyond, behind, above, and that analytical thing and ability to correlate gave me a different perception, and that was my education, and I loved it.
what I'm trying to do now is bring together the two strands of the man I see here, the deeply religious man and the man deeply embedded in physics. And it seems to be with quantum physics that point of encounter meets. Because quantum physics seems to say that Western physics, as construed by Newton and as elaborated, runs out when it gets to quantum physics. So it can't provide the answers in the same sure way that it used to be able to provide answers. Would that be a fair comment?
You have triggered a very interesting thought, but I'll put it in a slightly different way. There is in every human being a streak that I would relate to the head, which focuses attention on the outside world,
Yes.
and another streak that relates to the heart,
Yes.
that connects you to the inner world. Professor Abdul Salam, a Pakistani scientist who won the Nobel Prize for physics, was asked, "You're a scientist, how can you believe in God?"
Yes.
He gave a very simple reply. Science is about the outside world, religion is about the inner
inside
world. Now, let me, if you allow me,
Yes.
mention the DNA. The DNA
Yes.
has a double helix
Yes.
structure, and there are strands that connect, bridges that connect.
Yes.
Quantum physics is one bridge that connects the physical and the spiritual.
Ah.
But there are other bridges.
Yes.
So, you know,
Yeah.
the DNA has got
Yeah.
these bridges all
But
over.
you-
So,
Yes.
even an ordinary man can connect his head to the heart via
Yes.
these other bridges.
Now you make the assertion that quantum physics has a spiritual component. Modern day quantum physicists wouldn't yet make that. Well, some might, for instance. There was the book called The Tao of Physics some years ago, and there was a book
Yes,
called The Dancing Wu Li Masters that made that bridge. But they were thought to be rather tentative and speculative, not grounded in science. Was that a...
No, I have to be very careful here as a physicist. You know, I don't make an assertion. What I am saying is, if you look at the developments of modern physics, which are philosophical in nature, they suggest that the boundary of physics is close to metaphysics.
Yes.
Many physicists are conscious of this, and they feel that that should receive some attention. As of now, physics is staying clear of consciousness
Yes.
and life.
Yes.
It can explain the thermodynamics of the living body, as Schrodinger did. But where consciousness is concerned, some are careful and stay away from it.
Yeah.
Some, like Freeman Dyson, are bold enough to talk about it without explaining it in scientific terms.
Right.
They have a gut feeling. That's all I am
Yeah.
saying.
But scientists can't transact in gut feelings. Science itself says no gut feelings here. It's all got to be demonstrated.
Yeah, but then, you know, then the scientists have to say, you are talking about a domain I know nothing about, so let me not trash it and abuse it. That is what we are questioning.
Yes.
You know, if a lawyer talks about biology,
Yes.
unless he knows about biology, he should not talk
Yes.
about it. He should say, I don't know anything about it, I'll keep quiet. Many people do that.
Yes.
It is only what you call certain people in the fringe who want to be very, you know, evangelical, you know, for the devil and things like that.
Yeah.
They go into the
Yeah.
top spin.
There are people, Western New Age people, who talk about cosmic consciousness. People like yourself who may talk about Krishna consciousness, and then the scientists talk about quantum vacuums and quantum dynamics and so on. They see many people see that as all the same thing, just using different words to name them.
That is true, provided they spend time looking at these things.
Yes.
You see, Einstein said, science gives me an experience which is beyond the equations.
Yeah.
It gives me a sense of religiosity,
Yes.
use that word.
Yes.
So he was able to conceive of something beyond the flesh and the body
Yes.
and the blood and so on, and beyond the equations.
Yes.
There was a beauty in it.
Yes.
How do you see beauty in an equation unless
Yeah.
you have a transcendental level of appreciation?
Yes.
So people are in the circle, they are in
Yeah,
different
yeah.
spots, and now they are all dots. Slowly, if they come closer, the dots will come closer, and we may
Yeah.
even get a circle.
Okay. Did the discovery recently of the Higgs boson, did that excite you? Did it say, hey, we're one step nearer where I want to go?
Well, it excited me no end as a scientist, because that was a part of the missing puzzle. But, and also we got proof of the origin of inertial mass as opposed to gravitational mass. But if you talk in terms of broader cosmic consciousness and all that, it didn't surprise me at all. I mean, I would say Higgs boson was just yet another manifestation of cosmic consciousness.
Right.
Just as this glass is, just as the TV camera is, you are there.
Yeah.
So from that level, it did not surprise
Yes.
me. But I was thrilled because it gave a missing link in the in the tapestry of physics. So I was thrilled and not thrilled at the same time.
I think what I hear from you is that the religious part of you says, yes, we know the answer, and now we've got to find our way to get there. What the scientist says, we don't know what the answers are, but we'll go one sure step at a time and we'll find it. And you say, well, that's the same thing, but from different ends, I think.
Yeah, except that I won't use the word religion. I'll talk of it as spiritual, because spirituality, for me, religion is applied spirituality, which gives you 10 commandments and diktats and all that.
It gives you things to be guilty about too. Yeah. Is that why in uses of the word God in various synonyms, God is said to be immanent everywhere and in everything? It's a bit like your water vapor.
More than that, in physics we had this concept of ether, which was invoked in the 19th century.
Oh, ether, yes.
Yeah, to explain the propagation of light.
Yes.
So the Michelson-Morley experiment demolished the concept of ether.
Right.
And, Einstein was very happy about it, because that was the starting point of his special theory of relativity.
Right.
But when quantum physics came, it talked about a quantum vacuum for the field. Without the vacuum, there is no field.
Yeah.
So this vacuum reminded many people of Buddhist philosophy of Sunya and all that.
Yes.
Except that this vacuum is a very busy, turbulent vacuum. All sorts of things happen inside.
This is again counterintuitive, isn't it? Because we even use the word vacuum to say a total absence of anything. But you'll say the quantum vacuum is a field in which there's things coming into existence and going out of existence.
No, the vacuum doesn't come under our
No, the particles within it.
No, the quantum vacuum is a turbulent sea from which arise waves, which we can see, from which arise foam, which we can see, and so on.
Yeah.
So that's the way we have to think of the quantum vacuum. There won't be any wave without the sea. There won't be any foam without the sea.
Yes.
So just as the sea is needed as a basis for the waves and the foam,
Yeah.
in field theory you have to have a quantum vacuum.
Yeah.
If it is quantum electrodynamics, it has its own vacuum. If it is electroweak field theory, which Salam, Weinberg and Glashow proposed, it has its own vacuum. If it is quantum chromodynamics, it has its own vacuum. Yeah. From the point of view of philosophy, whatever is manifested is latent in the vacuum.
Right, yes.
So there cannot be any physical reality unless the genes are there in the vacuum.
So particles that we think of as being primal or primitive or whatever, things like electrons and neutrons and so on, are just higher level manifestations of much lower realities.
Exactly, that genes are there. The neutron cannot have any property that was not previously
Because 100
encoded.
years ago they were using the word atom, meaning atom, that which cannot be cut. But the atom was cut. But we've gone down through many layers of the onion, and we're still going down.
We are still going down.
Yeah, but different rules apply, different rules of physics apply once you get into quantum. You get things like what a particle could be in two places at once in quantum physics.
Well, if you forget the particle as a material thing, but consider it as a wave, it could be in two places at the same time.
Same time, yeah.
So I would like to ask you, when you talk of a particle, are you talking of the particle nature of the particle or the wave nature of the particle?
Well, this is the thing we
have this convenient duality, but it's given to us by nature.
Well, this was the big thing about the nature of light, wasn't it?
First about light.
Yeah.
And de Broglie wondered, does matter also have this dual nature? And what the quantum mechanics of Heisenberg, Schrödinger and Dirac said was, light and matter both have a duality and they are intertwined.
Yes. Now light was thought first of all to be particles and then thought to be waves. Was that way around?
That's right. Newton said it was particles.
Yes.
And then came 19th century, 17th century physicists, Young and Fermat, and so many other people. I learned my physics long ago, I forgot. All of them said, Huygens, all of them said it's wave.
Yes.
And when Einstein again said it is a particle, people were confused. And there used to be a popular saying, light behaves like a particle on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, behaves like a wave on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, and Sunday it observes the Sabbath.
Very good. Now, as we record this, you're about halfway through your New Zealand tour, and you're rapidly approaching your 80th birthday. Just in a few weeks. I got your CV. You just, and so you've had a remarkable post-professional career in working at the Sai Baba Institute in what's the name of it? Puttapati.
Puttapati.
Yeah, and this is in South. And I looked on the map, and if you find Chennai on that side and you find Goa on that side, it's almost halfway across. It crosses, and there's a huge ashram there, isn't it?
That's the biggest ashram there. Right?
Yeah. And there's something like 1,000 ashrams worldwide?
I don't know, but there may be even more.
Yes. Yeah.
Anybody who wants to do business and declares himself to be a guru starts an ashram these days.
So you're a sort of a technical director at the ashram?
Not really. I went there to teach and to learn and to transform, because I wanted to discover what the goodness in me and see if I could use it to for the benefit of other people. I have succeeded in a large measure in doing some good without expecting any rewards. That is satisfying.
Albert Schweitzer did something like that.
Albert
Albert Schweitzer did something like that.
So many people.
He went from one career into another, perhaps more compassionate career.
Yeah, he
realizing the other side of yourself.
Do you know that Einstein and Schweitzer used to give concerts?
No.
With Einstein playing piano.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, he used to do it in Germany, earn money, rush off to Africa.
Right. Yeah. And so...
But I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I was not a piano player.
But you don't come out of India very often. You've been to New Zealand once before.
No, that was in '95.
Yes.
No, actually, I was so busy there. I had so much to do there.
Yes.
I allowed my passport to expire. That was an easy way of avoiding foreign travel.
Yeah. Well, Professor Ganan Venkataraman, I wish you a very safe journey home, and thank you very much for appearing on our program.
Thank you very much. It was a great joy to be here.
Thank you.
And this is the first time I have appeared in a television interview, not only inside my country, even outside my country.
My goodness, what an honourable sport. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Grateful thanks to Professor Venkataraman for tonight's conversation, and thank you too for spending some of your time here with us on Triangle Television. Before you go, think about this. It was written by my guest, and it contains suggestions for improving our world. Politics with principles, education with character, science with humanity, commerce with morality. These are not only essential, but they are positively achievable. Until our next conversation, I'm Noel Cheer. Good night.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.